This is the original podcast edition of The Guild of the Cowry Catchers by Abigail Hilton, now part of the complete Pirates of Wefravain series. The books are available as audiobooks, ebooks, and paperbacks. This podcast originally aired from 2010 to 2014. Stick around after the story for commentary from me, the author, more than a decade later. The Guild of the Cowry Catchers, a novel of pirates and Panamindorah. Written and narrated by Abigail Hilton. Book 2. Flames. Warning: this novel was intended for people who shop in the grown-up section of the bookstore. It is not intended for children or young teens. If you need to ask whether you will be offended, you probably will. Episode 3.
Hello, this is J. Daniel Sawyer, author of The Antithesis Progression, Down from 10, and Sculpting God, all of which you can find at www.jdsawyer.net. Previously on the Cowry Catchers podcast. Silvio teaches Gerard the phonetic alphabet. In the course of the lesson, Gerard learns about Malpin, an assassin who enjoyed books and who was Silvio's teacher and role model. As they close in on Manse 94, they spot a known pirate ship, the Water Sprite. The pirate attempts to lead them on a chase. Silvio sends the Sea Feather to follow her, but keeps the Fang on course for their island. When they reach Manse 94 and begin to circle it, they find the Defiance waiting for them behind a jetty. Gerard and Alsair drag away a fireship launched by the Defiance, but the Fang is still in an awkward position, downwind of the enemy. As Silvio tries to outmaneuver the Defiance, the Fang scrapes on the reef and is in danger of grounding. To make matters worse, the Water Sprite sails into view. There is no sign of the other two temple ships.
Chapter 6. Sea Fight.
Fire dancers are devotees of a combat style little known in Wefravain, in which fighters use their feet and hands to attack and defend. They may or may not use weapons. Grishnard fire dancers use their claws to slash their opponents. Fawn fire dancers often wear a thin metal shoe with a sharpened edge. Gwaine, a guide to Wefravain.
The Fang shuddered again, her hull scraping the reef. Still she moved. Silvio was standing with Farrell at the helm, watching the Defiance and shouting occasional orders, which were echoed by the boatswain. Gerard made Alsair lie down on the deck and relax his wing. Then Gerard removed the arrow and dressed the wound. He had the supplies with him, but it was still awkward and involved wrapping a linen bandage tightly all the way around Alsair's chest. When he looked up again, he saw that the Water Sprite had sailed behind the Defiance and was trying to get upwind of them. Silvio had come down onto the lower deck. Gerard didn't feel the hull scraping anymore, and they were almost around the side of the island, the shore no longer to leeward.
You see what they're trying to do?
Asked Silvio. Gerard nodded.
The Defiance will take the wind out of our sails and the Water Sprite will swoop down on us.
Silvio growled.
Where is Arundel?
Based on Alsair's observations, Gerard suspected that the Sea Feather had been led well away from the island and then left suddenly behind. She would not arrive in time to help, and even the Dark Wind didn't seem likely to arrive in the next quarter watch.
If we board one of those ships, the other will join in. Can we take both at once?
He wasn't sure, and clearly Silvio wasn't either. The pirates did not intend to give the Fang the option of biding her time until help came. They were faster, more maneuverable, and they were upwind. The two angled away from each other, one to either side of the Fang, and Silvio made up his mind.
Tack seaward!
He called.
We're going to board.
And we'll board the Water Sprite. She's smaller. If we can put her between us and the Defiance, we'll have that much more time, as well as the weather gauge.
It would be a close thing. The other two ships were already changing directions in response to the Fang's new tack. They were very quick, but they didn't have rowers. Trimming the sails, turning. Silvio had the sails double-reefed now. They were sailing almost directly into the wind, at an angle only possible with rowers. He'd opened the hatch to the grate that communicated to the slave quarters. Every now and then, he'd shout an order to their warder. For a quarter watch, they struggled to flank the two pirate ships. Gerard could feel the tension building in his neck and shoulders. He paced the deck, scanned the horizon, helped with the sails when he could, although every sailor was either on deck or trying to be. The bosun kept sending extra bodies below.
Soon. We'll need you all. Soon.
And then they got a little luck. The wind veered slightly to their advantage. The water sprite fell off a little, and then she was scampering away, but she was finally leeward.
Now,
thought Gerard. Silvio opened the sails to the wind, stopped the rowers, and the Fang closed like a dream. They came up to the water sprite broadside and fully in control of the encounter. Silvio didn't even wait to shoot arrows. The Defiance would be on them as soon as she could tack up wind. They had to take the water sprite now. In the ordered confusion of throwing grappling hooks, of too many shouts on deck, of excited shouting, of arrows from the other ship, Gerard saw Alcere take to the air.
You shouldn't be flying,
he thought, and then lost himself in the immediacy of the moment. Gerard leapt the gap between the two ships, a fraction ahead of the others. He cut down a fawn who tried to put a sword in him, turning, spinning, blood and bodies underfoot, reacting. The sound of clashing steel, the sound of screaming, contorted faces, pulling his sword from a corpse, striking so hard that he broke an opponent's blade. And then he was below decks, and half a dozen of his police were behind him, and they were going room to room. Slower now. Gerard chose a room, designated it for prisoners, and started throwing unarmed fawns inside. He put a couple of guards on the door and ordered that the fawns be stripped when time allowed. He searched the hold, found a couple hiding down there, and sent them up as well. The water sprite was only about a third the size of the Fang, but she fought hard. Gerard found a few shelts still struggling in the dark, bloody corridors as he made his way back through the ship. It took him some time to fully clear the area below decks. Silvio must have figured that he was up to the job, because Gerard saw neither Silvio nor Farrell. When he emerged back on deck, he was treated to the unwelcome sight of the Defiance just scraping up against the bow of the water sprite. She was at an awkward angle to board, but she was clearly going to do it anyway. Looking across at the Fang, Gerard saw that a number of the sailors from the water sprite had decided to take the fight to their enemy, rather than try to defend their own ship. Their efforts would render the Fang less able to counter the attack she was about to receive from the Defiance. Gerard caught sight of Silvio on the far side of the water sprite's deck. He had his personal guard of half a dozen large sailors with him, and he was carrying the short sword he used for these encounters, as well as a bandolier of throwing knives. He was shouting at the Grishnard sailors on the water sprite to rally, in order to meet the attack about to come from the Defiance. Gerard counted 20 police with himself, including Marlowe. All told, they had maybe 50 Sea Watch and police on the deck of the water sprite. Gerard glanced again at the Fang, still struggling to clean up the pirates on her deck.
This could be bad.
And then the Defiance closed, and her shells poured onto the already blood-slick deck of the water sprite. Some of them didn't even wait to fight with the Grishnards there, but attempted to cross straight to the Fang. Gerard set about to make that as difficult as possible. He could hear Silvio shouting at Farrell to cut loose of the water sprite, which was making a bridge to the Defiance. Gerard doubted that Farrell could hear him, and even if he could, he doubted that the maneuver could be performed in time to make a difference. An archer from the Defiance had shot a fire arrow into the Fang's mainsail, and the Sea Watch sailors were further distracted by their efforts to put out the flames.
Too many of them,
thought Gerard, as the fawns continued to stream from the Defiance.
They've got far more shells here than they needed to sail the ship.
Many of the fawns were Zeds, and they were vicious fighters, their black and white striped faces startling and terrifying, their hair braided and beaded, dressed in what was almost certainly Grishnard and Griffin skins, and screaming at the tops of their lungs. Gerard saw one of his police go down, smacked across the deck and pinned to the mast by a spear. And then he caught sight of Gawain. The Shavier fawn was not even pretending to be anything else. His gray-blue feathered tail fanned and folded as he turned, his hair a long braid down his back. No sign of lenses now. He had a curved sword, but he wasn't using it much. Mostly he was using his feet. Gerard saw him whirl at blinding speed to kick a Grishnard attacker in the chest. The Grishnard staggered, crumpled. Gawain stabbed him and moved on. His hoof lashed at a Grishnard's forearm and left a wound so deep that Gerard saw the gleam of bone before the bubble of blood.
He didn't learn that from a book.
Gawain was shouting at his Zeds. Gerard heard one sentence clearly.
Kill their officers!
And then Gerard was fighting 4 Zeds at once, and he lost track of what Gawain was doing. He sliced the head off a spear, ripped it out of someone's hands, and used the butt to clobber the Celt behind him while parrying another thrust with his sword. He rained blows on them, killed them, nearly tripped on their bodies, and still they came.
Too many. Too many.
At last, high above the fighting, Gerard heard an eagle's scream.
Alsair!
The griffin dropped like an avenging god into the mass of Zeds on the deck of the water sprite, his beak slashing a trail of blood, his paws slapping Celts over the side. Gerard looked up and saw another ship coming alongside the water sprite. He had to blink back blood and sweat from his eyes to be sure, but he knew already from the cheers coming from the Fang that she was the Dark Wind. Their enemies knew it too. Looking to his left, Gerard saw the Zeds and Shavier Fawns from the Dark Wind working to free their grappling hooks. Basil was standing with one foot on the gunwale of the Dark Wind as she closed on the water sprite, waving his plumed hat and grinning.
Hello, Sylvie! Hello, Gerard! Can I play too?
Better late than never,
barked Silvio. Gerard turned and saw that Silvio had backed up against the wall of the quarterdeck behind him. The Celts from the Dark Wind were not so much jumping across as jumping down onto the deck of the water sprite, which lay literally in their shadow. Gawain and many of his Zeds had retreated back onto the Defiance.
Don't let them get away,
roared Silvio, but it was already too late. Before the first of the Celts from the Dark Wind could cross the deck, the Defiance had cut the last of her ropes, abandoning the grappling hooks and a sizable portion of her crew, who were still fighting on the decks of 2 ships. The Defiance spread her sails and shot away with the wind.
Do you want me to follow her?
Basil asked Silvio. Silvio shook his head.
Just help us clean up this mess.
Chapter 7. The Trap.
Fire dancers are so named because their art was developed in the region of Major Major laced with lava flows. The secrets of their training are carefully guarded by several noble houses, where they serve as bodyguards and occasionally as warriors and assassins. Gawain, A Guide to Wefravain.
The remaining pirates surrendered rapidly once it was clear that their leaders had abandoned them. When the last of the prisoners had been stripped and tossed into a locked room, the sailors went to work repairing the damage to the Fang and making the water sprite secure to bring home as a prize. They also needed time to dress their own wounds and see to their dead. Gerard had lost 3 of his police, and 6 more were wounded. The watch had lost about 20 Celts, with 30 wounded. The fire in the Fang's rigging had been extinguished, but not before it did considerable damage. Between the Fang, the Dark Wind, and the Water Sprite, they had more than enough material for new sheets and lines, but it took time to reassemble. Basil suggested that they sail around the island and anchor in its little harbor while they worked.
It's more sheltered than you'd think.
He told Silvio.
Even though it does face the open sea, the jetty protects its mouth.
Silvio agreed to this as the wind had picked up and the waves had grown higher. As Gerard suspected, Alsair had gone looking for the Dark Wind just as the Fang closed with the Water Sprite. He'd found her doing as Silvio had ordered, approaching the island so as to circle it from the other side. Basil had picked up his speed at Alsair's news and used every oar and sail she could bear to reach the fight in time to help. Alsair insisted on going up once more to look for the Defiance. He did not find her.
At least she's not hiding around the far side of the island.
At that point, Gerard threatened to tie up his wings if he did not stop flying. Alsair went to Gerard's cabin and collapsed into an exhausted sleep. As darkness fell, they were still working on the Fang's sails. Silvio wasn't worried about the Defiance. She was not large enough to take both ships, and he expected the Sea Feather to turn up soon. Still, he seemed dissatisfied.
This was not a trap.
He told Gerard.
This was just a fight.
It was an ambush.
Gerard pointed out. Silvio shook his head.
I was expecting a little more.
Gerard sat down on the quarterdeck in the torchlight with a whetstone to work out the scratches and nicks in his sword. Silvio was doing the same with his knives and shouting occasional directions to the Shelts working on the rigging.
Did you see Gawain on the deck of the Water Sprite? He's a fire dancer or I'm a wyvern.
Silvio nodded.
I saw him. I saw you too. Gods, Gerard, no one would know you're a lamb when you've got a sword in your hand. I remember now why you made me so nervous when you first came.
I made you nervous.
Silvio looked at him suspiciously, as though he thought Gerard were being coy.
We got into a fight with a smuggler a few days after you joined. You remember?
Gerard thought back. He did remember. A confused fight by torchlight, short but violent.
You were the first one over the side, so the sailors all followed you, and, well, you can use a sword. Those fights are chaotic, anything can happen, and you couldn't stand me.
Gerard frowned.
I would never have attacked you, Silvio.
I didn't know that. All I knew was that you were dangerous, overqualified, and the Watch would follow you.
And all I knew was that you did not lead by example.
It was the chief reason that Gerard had immediately labeled Silvio a coward.
If you want others to do a thing,
Michael Hullivar had told him,
you should do it first, and do it better.
This was especially true if you wanted them to do something dangerous and frightening, like leaping onto the deck of an enemy ship. In retrospect, Gerard could see how unreasonable his expectations had been when applied to Silvio. While Gerard's decision to lead a charge might be, at worst, rash, Silvio's choice to do the same thing would be purely foolish and probably suicidal. He was too small. The amazing part was not that Silvio did not lead charges, but that he managed to keep the respect and admiration of his subordinate in spite of this. Sailors were still finding his knives in odd places from the fight, and whenever someone brought him one, he would give them a red feather from his hat, which they wore proudly in a variety of ways. He'd been doing this for years. Different colored feathers in different fights. Some of the sailors had quite a collection and a story to go with each.
I don't think they'd willingly trade you for anyone else.
Gerard replied to Silvio.
They were extremely unhappy when you went missing on Mance.
Silvio waved his hand.
Shinies, smoke and mirrors, legend.
That's not completely true. They do love the legend, but they know you better than you think. I do enjoy that kind of fighting,
Gerard said, which was odd, because Gerard did not like to cause pain. However, a pitched fight was one of the few times that he never second-guessed himself, never felt guilty or uncertain. He was facing armed combatants in an honorable contest, and there was no shame in winning. The fight with the pirates had been voluntary on both sides, no quarter asked or given. Gerard felt no remorse for killing under those circumstances.
Well, we all like what we're good at, don't we? I am entirely willing for you to continue enjoying that kind of fighting while standing between me and a lot of screaming Zeds. I think I see the attraction of attacking the Fang right now. Gawain saw a chance to leave both the police and the Watch leaderless in one stroke. That's not an opportunity I've given him before.
Gerard nodded.
So he ambushed the Fang and lost.
Looks like it.
Silvio still seemed dissatisfied.
Marlowe was with me the whole time. Jumped right over behind me, stayed with me throughout the fight.
Made sure you didn't kill Gawain.
I never even got near Gawain.
I see that none of the resistance hurt Marlowe.
Or me. Like you said, he's good with a sword. No one has caught him passing illicit communications, have they?
Not yet.
Gerard went down a little later to have a look at the prisoners on the Water Sprite. There were 62 of them, crowded into a small room. A little over half were Zeds. Most of the rest were Shavier Fawns, although Gerard saw 3 Ocelons and a couple of Gazumel. He also saw a Foxling, a red one, crouched sullenly in a corner.
We've got a strange mix of prisoners down there,
he told Silvio back on the Fang.
I don't think I've ever seen so many Zeds in one place.
Silvio nodded.
They could have been recruited from the lawless lands.
Why, they could have come from Asia Minor.
We'll find out.
Are you going to question them tonight?
Strangely, no. There was a wyvern messenger up here a little while ago. He said that the priestess wants to see them all in one piece back on Lecklock.
Gerard nodded.
There's a foxling down there, too.
Is there?
A red one.
Silvio sighed.
I'll probably try to talk to him. I doubt it will do any good. The Resistance indoctrinates their shelts pretty thoroughly.
If you were caught alive, would you talk to them?
Silvio smiled.
You mean, how far does my spirit of self-preservation extend? Let's just say that betraying Morcella would not be an act of self-preservation.
In the event, they did not talk to any of the prisoners at all. Silvio was determined to have the sails and rigging in shape to sail in the morning, and everyone worked on them until the second watch of the night. When they were almost finished, Gerard went down into the hold of the Water Sprite to see if they had any extra block and tackle in storage. The ship had already been searched for illicit valuable cargo, but they'd found nothing other than ordinary provisions. Gerard paced the hold several times, his lamp illuminating boxes and barrels of dried fruit, flour, vegetables, fish, tar rope planking, sailcloth, and other supplies. He found what he was looking for and returned to the Fang, which was still tied alongside the Water Sprite. The sailors were starting to go to bed by watches. Already Basil and his shelts had returned to the Dark Wind, anchored a short distance away. Silvio was up on the quarterdeck talking to Farrell. Gerard came up to tell them the results of his search, and then stopped. Something niggled in the back of his mind. His tail was prickling. Gerard turned slowly and looked back at the distance he'd covered to reach the quarterdeck. He looked at the Water Sprite, tied alongside the Fang. Silvio's sharp voice cut into his thoughts.
What's wrong?
Gerard shook his head. He went back down to the deck and paced off the length of the Water Sprite. Silvio followed him.
Gerard.
Gerard raised his head.
It's too short.
What's too short?
The hold of the Water Sprite.
A moment's silence. Then Silvio screwed up his eyes.
Wyverns preserve us. Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
Farrell, send up the flags. Get Basil back over here and maybe 50 of his shelts. Wake everyone back up. Priestess' sake, Gerard. Couldn't you have noticed this half a watch ago?
Silvio sounded annoyed, but Gerard saw that he was grinning.
You knew it was a trap.
Yes, but if we can spring it ahead of them, we'll be all right, huh?
Silvio started across the plank bridge to the Water Sprite.
Let's see what kind of a secret room we're dealing with.
Chapter 8. Sprung.
The Resistance has remained divided and largely ineffectual for years by aiming at the wrong target. They speak as though Grishnards are their primary enemies, in spite of the fact that a sizable contingent of the Resistance is Grishnard. They talk of unseating Grishnard dominance and toppling Grishnard control of the islands, but this is foolishness, because Grishnards do not, in fact, have control. The sooner all the shelts and animals of Wefervain see their true enemy, the sooner they will have a chance of winning. The parasitic species who has maintained Wefervain's abusive power system for years is the Wyvern. Grishnards are only their lackeys. Gwaine. The truth about Wyverns.
Gerard was right. The hold of the Water Sprite was at least 10 paces too short. Boxes and barrels had been arranged to make the room difficult to pace off without actually hiding or barricading anything.
Non-threatening.
Silvio said.
Misleading.
He examined both ends of the room, then announced,
The forward wall is newer, very well stained and aged, but the smell is different.
Gerard started pulling away all the boxes from the wall. He felt a little nervous, knowing that a horde of armed fawns might be packed into the darkness on the far side. Silvio, though, didn't seem concerned.
They'll wait until they don't hear any sounds from outside. They'll want to attack when we're all asleep.
He shook his head as he started going over the wall.
This is superb work. I'm really not sure how it opens.
He stopped for a moment, looking up.
Come here, Gerard.
Gerard came over, looking at the place high on the wall that seemed to interest Silvio. Next thing he knew, Silvio had kicked off his boots and scrambled up onto Gerard's shoulders, stepping in the crook of his arm on the way and scratching Gerard's neck with his little blunt claws. Gerard hissed in protest.
Silvio, I'm not a ladder. If you wanted up, all you had to do was ask.
Silvio laughed. He was standing with one foot on Gerard's head and the other on his shoulder.
The entrance is here. It means there's no suggestive seams where shelves would look, and there's less likelihood of boxes being piled over the door. Very clever.
Gerard reached up and took Silvio's paws in his hands.
I would appreciate it if you'd get off my head.
In a moment.
Silvio shook a paw loose.
Stop that.
An instant later, he said,
All right, so I see how it opens. Another of those indented doorknobs with silky stuff. I wonder if I could get one of the prisoners to tell me what it is.
He hopped down from Gerard's shoulders.
Let's get some armed sailors down here, and a ladder. Not that you don't make a good one.
It was another 8th watch before Basil and his Shelts arrived in their small boats, looking cross and bleary.
So you have an infestation of Zeds and Ocelons in your planking.
Basil complained to Silvio.
And you need us to hold your hand while you smash them? I bet there are at least a dozen in there, Sylvie.
What, are you exhausted after killing both of the ones still fighting when you reached our deck? Waving goodbye to the Defiance wore you out?
Oh, exhausted from repairing your ship all day.
There could be 100 in there. I don't want to have to repair the Fang again.
Silvio had 30 armed Shelts in the hold. More would have hindered each other, and about 100 on the water sprite before he consented to open the hidden room. He also had every sailor on the Fang awake and prepared for battle. Gerard suspected it would be the shortest fight ever seen on either ship. A ladder had been placed against the hull, leading to the door high in the wall, and the strange silk-like material torn away from the recessed knob. Silvio expected the door to be locked, and everyone was surprised when the knob turned and opened soundlessly on the first attempt. The sailor who'd opened it jumped down and took a few nervous steps back. The door yawned above them, a black hole into mystery. For a moment, the hold of the water sprite was completely silent. Standing about halfway back, Gerard could see the sailors near the door, fingering their swords. Lantern light flickered on the walls of the room. The sailors looking down from the upper passage strained to see in.
It's empty,
Someone muttered.
they didn't have time to fill it.
Just for smuggling.
Another said.
Probably full of sweet leaf.
Can we go back to bed?
Basil asked, from somewhere in the hall above. Silvio was standing at the base of the ladder that led out of the hold. He turned suddenly and started up.
Everyone back on deck. Shut this room. Gerard, come.
Gerard stared at him.
Surely you intend to throw a smoking rag in there or something?
The sailors nearest the exit ladder started towards it, but they hesitated because Silvio had named Gerard.
You are not at a tea party, Captain,
Snarled Silvio.
I didn't say stroll. I said get over here. The rest of you after him.
Gerard picked up his pace and reached the base of the ladder. He climbed up.
What's the matter with you?
Silvio was breathing quickly, and his eyes were dilated.
I don't want to panic them,
He said through clenched teeth.
I smell.
Someone in the hold screamed.
Spiders!
You have been listening to The Guild of the Cowry Catchers by Abigail Hilton. Copyright Abigail Hilton. Cowry Catchers is an illustrated podcast. This week's artwork was by Beau Kyer. To view these illustrations, and to learn more about this world and its author, visit the website at www.cowrycatchers.com. This podcast included the vocal talents of
Nathan Lowell,
as Gerard,
Norm Sherman,
as Silvio,
Chris Lester,
as Gwaine,
J. Daniel Sawyer,
as Basil,
Rish Outfield.
as Michelle,
Big Incubus.
and
Rish Outfield.
as two sailors. Sound effects for this podcast were generously provided by SoundSnap and the Free Sound Project. The intro music for this podcast was Grace by Beth Quist. The outro music is Monsters, also by Beth Quist, both licensed with permission from Magnatune.net. Music for Book 2 of Cowry Catchers included selections from Digital Juice at digitaljuice.com and Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. It also included Beth Quist, Diana Rowan, and Jamie Saber, all from Magnatune.net. All music was licensed and used according to the terms of the websites.
This is a standard copyright now. This podcast is provided for your personal enjoyment only. You can download and archive the episodes for your personal use. You may not re-upload, mirror, or publicly redistribute the audio files, nor can you alter, remix, or create derivative works. And I'm back. This is 2025 Abby with some comments on the episode. So first of all, J. Daniel Sawyer and the antithesis progression. This was also a person who was doing full cast audio, in Dan's case, with a very long, big project. So I talked about the various people who worked with me on this and the various people who inspired me. But I think I neglected, I talked about the Podiobooks people, and I talked about the short fiction people, but I don't think I talked about Dan and Chris, what they were doing at that time. So Dan and was Chris Lester, now Kristen Lester, were friends who were doing some stuff in each other's shows. They knew each other, had known each other for a while in real life. Both of them doing these massive, long-form, big projects that were full cast. So I think I've talked about Kristen's work already. The Metamore City podcast, which is currently on hiatus, but hopefully will come back again at some point. That was full cast, and I think Kristen went back and forth between doing full casts and solo reads, but lots and lots of full cast with music and sound effects kind of work. And then J. Daniel Sawyer was also doing sci-fi with a lot of music, sound effects, full cast kind of stuff. So I met both of them. I met Kristen just a little bit earlier because she was at a conference in Portland, and I want to say it was right before I graduated from anesthesia school, or right afterward. It was just a little bit before. It was when I was still producing book 1. But they were in town, and so we met up. And then I met her again at Balticon. Anyway, a lot of these people, I was just meeting them in real life for the first time, and we were all in each other's performances, presentations. It was all a good time. As you can probably tell in this episode, my first love is fantasy, but I also really love a good mystery, and I really love a little bit of horror scattered in. I don't write much neat horror. I don't write much neat mystery, but by that I mean just like straight up genre horror, genre mystery. But I do really love some horror and some mystery scattered into my fantasy, and you'll see that over and over again in my work. I like the part of the story that is Gerard and Silvio versus Gwaine. I do think that's a really fun part of the story. Part of me wishes I had that go on for longer. Although that is pretty much book 2. Or, part 2 of Cowry Catchers. But anyway, that is a fun part of the story, I think. The part where Silvio uses Gerard as a ladder is still funny to me. That still made me laugh out loud. And I noticed that in the show notes, I finally got Kevin MacLeod's name right. I was like, oh, thank goodness. You looked it up between the first book and the second book. I mispronounced fewer people's names in this book. I also really like the cliffhanger at the end of this episode, and I'm going to leave you with that. Also, I think Rish really enjoyed screaming that line, "Spiders," at the end of this one. And yeah, I will see you in the next episode. This is Abigail Hilton, and you have been listening to the Pirates of Wefravain saga. Join me on Patreon for early episodes, long-form interviews, forum access, personal updates, and lots of artwork, including maps and species charts. That's patreon.com/Abigail Hilton. If you want the whole story now with no interruptions and some remastering of the early books for sound quality, you can find the entire series at shop.abigailhilton.com, along with all my other novels. The audiobooks are delivered by BookFunnel. Background music was Hidden Sky by Jamie Sieber, licensed from Magnatune.net circa 2014. The Guild of the Cowry Catchers podcast is an audio adaptation of the Pirates of Wefravain saga, written and produced by Abigail Hilton. Original production copyright 2010, all rights are reserved to the author.